It is another beautiful night in the Mile High City. Tuesday, to be exact, July the 18th. Tonight is game number 96 for the Rockies. They are 6-4 this year against the Padres. They have won 5 of their last 6 meetings against San Diego this year. Full slate of games in Major League Baseball tonight. Rockies picked up a half game on both Arizona and LA yesterday, with both of those teams idle. Antonio Senzatella is ready to go, and in his career he's 2-0 against San Diego with a 2.77 ERA. That computes to 13 innings of work, just 4 runs allowed. Senzatella is a guy, when he commands his fastball on both sides of the plate, he is really difficult to handle.
And I think that's something that he learned when he went down to the bullpen, to know that, hey, I need to try to get some quick and early outs here, that I don't need to throw 7-8 pitches to a hitter. Let him get himself out. And Antonio just going to be battling a little bit of nerves tonight, since he's making his first start in a while. 9-3 on the season for Antonio, 4.63 ERA. I mentioned at home he's 7-2 with the 4.87. Beat San Diego at Petco back on May 3rd, but go back to April 11th here at home. 7 innings, 5 hits, 2 earned runs, had a walk, 5 strikeouts in that ball game. We know about Antonio with the fastball, slider, and changeup. I think tonight you're still going to see the fastball. He's going to have to locate it to both sides of the plate like he always does, but a few more sliders, a few more changeups, because if he learned anything last night from Herman, is the way that San Diego can be susceptible to some off-speed pitches.
Now, San Diego had 13 hits last night. Been playing much better. They're 25-22 over their last 47 after beginning the year 15-30. Here's the Southwest batting order for the Friars tonight of Andy Green. They'll have Manuel Margot up top. He was 2 for 5 last night. And then it is Carlos Asuaje. Will Myers struggled last night for the first time this year against the Rockies. He was 0 for. Pirello bat cleanup. Corey Spangenberg 5. Jabari Blash blasted a long 2-run home run last night. Then it's the veteran Eric Ibar. Luis Torrens is doing the catching. Austin Hedges was placed on the concussion list today. He had been out the last 3 days after being hit in the mask, and so they did not replace him with a position player. They replaced him with an arm. They had a short start last night from Perdomo. So they went the route of a pitcher, Jose Valdez, who was just sent out literally 24 hours ago
When Kirby Yates
returned from paternity leave. And so now he's back in the fold. It's just a 3-man bench this evening for San Diego. So we're set for baseball. Glad you are along with us. And Senzatella's first delivery of the ball game. And Manuel Margot fouls it off.
One thing I'm going to kind of look at early in this game, we see the first pitch from Antonio at 97 miles an hour. It did dip down a couple miles an hour in his last start against Arizona, but got it back when he moved to the bullpen. Now, that's 2 pitches now, 97 and 96 miles an hour for Antonio.
And the description that applies to Senzatella is the same one that we utilized last night with Herman Marquez. It's easy cheese, man. It's
not a max effort.
No, he doesn't have to grunt to get it up in the upper 90s. And he gets him off balance with a breaking ball. DJ waving his arms. Nobody will interfere. He's got it 1 out.
Good to see that slider in play early on the 3rd pitch.
I would agree with you. Let's take a look at the Rockies defensively in their purple tops. It'll be Para Blackman and Cargo in the outfield. That's not a misprint. Amarista is playing 3rd base. Nolan is been busy boy this year.
Yes.
He deserves a day off once in a while, and so he's getting one tonight. It'll be Story and LeMahieu up the middle, Reynolds at first, and Walters doing the catching again. That pitch is outside. Ball 1 is just strange to look down at 3rd base and not see Arenado. How about Amarista? You want to talk about a versatile guy. It's one of the reasons he's always been a favorite of Buddy Black in his time with Amarista in San Diego. This is the 6th different position he has started at for the Rockies this year.
And you know he's going to provide everything you need at that position. Now, is he going to make plays like Nolan? No, because only Nolan makes plays like Nolan. But I think for Lexi, if the ball's in, he's going to catch it, and then that's what you want as a manager when you put somebody in a different position. Just make the routine play for him.
Got to have confidence in that guy. Nolan will give the body and the mind a rest tonight. 1-2, and this ball's well hit. And Charlie's not going to get there. He's going to have to field it on a hop and into second base with a double is Carlos Asuaje. He had 3 hits last night.
And now he's hit in 9 out of his last 11 games. He wanted to elevate the fastball. They had just gone there the pitch previous. You see how high Tony Walters is? But Asuaje gets up on top of that ball. Had to go up onto his tippy toes to hit it. He's got a good swing. Carlos does.
He's getting nice productivity out of that swing also. So here's Will Myers, 0 for 5 last night with 4 strikeouts. Pitch is down, ball 1. First time that Myers was hitless at Coors Field since June 16th of last year. That's a strike.
Kind of befuddled Will Myers last night with a lot of different pitches.
Well, it was a great breaking ball last night for Marquez. He used that in his changeup quite frequently. That's inside.
Last night for Herman, he pitched with this breaking pitch early in the game. He didn't get that fastball probably till the 4th inning, and then he used some changeups late in the game.
It's good to see. It's part of the maturation process. How do you pitch if you don't have your A fastball? And I thought he had a pretty good fastball last night, but it's a good solid outing for Marquez. As Huey said earlier, 32 wins now between that rookie group and John Gray. He was a rookie last year. Yeah, it's not like he's got a lot of salt and pepper in his beard. That pitch misses, so Myers reaches. Now there's 2 on, and that'll bring up Jose Pirela.
According to the Subaru strike zone, that was a strike at the knees, not called so by Ron Kolpa, the home plate umpire. It's time for the Rockies to roll one up.
Well, they got Pirela to roll into a double play last night. That was on that nice pickup by Nolan. Pirela was 1 for 4. He did have a double. He's hitting his last 5 games. And the breaking ball's in there for a strike. 0-1.
Thinking a little bit more off the breaking pitch is Antonio. Used to be a little bit harder. Now it's 83 miles an hour. I like it. You're going 97 with the fastball.
Senza did not get on top of that curveball. We should probably point this out early. I don't think you're going to see Senzatella throwing 100+ pitches tonight. In his only outing in Albuquerque, he went 3 1/3. Can he go 90? Absolutely. And if he's effective, maybe a little bit above 90. But it's going to be a night where the Rockies are going to have to utilize a portion of that bullpen. And that pitch misses. It's 2-1.
Ron Kolpa said it was outside. We could hear it on our field mic.
(2-1) foul tip held by Walters. 2-2. always goes without saying. You want to get to the dugout quickly when you're at home, and when you're on the road, it's your turn. Try to put up a marker or two early. Get momentum quickly to your dugout. This will be pitch number 17. Senzatella has 9 in the zone, 7 out of the zone. 2 on and 1 out. And the sliders in the dirt. 3-2.
Just kind of rushed that one. Now we'll see if the Padres put their guys in motion. DJ's real close at second base, holding Carlos on.
They're not going, and this is line to left. This is going to bring in a run at least. 1 is scored. Myers to third. He'll stop there on a double by Perella. It's 1-0 San Diego.
Two doubles hit in this inning. Both of them were on fastballs that were up. Subaru Supermo, that is easy hitting for Jose. Pulls it down into the left field corner to drive in Carlos. It's Perella's 14th double.
Steve Foster's seen something he wants to address with Senzatella. Double walk double. And you have Corey Spangenberg at the plate and 2 runners in scoring position. Senzatella has been more of a contact guy at the big league level. He has struck out 68 in 93 and a third innings.
Which is okay if you're a contact guy down in the bottom third of the zone.
Yeah, not when you're up in the zone like he's been. Good spot there. It's 0-1. Senzatella has thrown that fastball 75% of the time this year. Mixing it up a little bit more early in this game. 1-1.
That's not quite up in the Bartolo Colon range of 75%, but
Bartolo Colon is pitching tonight for Minnesota. That
yes,
Bartolo Colon,
that same one.
Pitching for his 10th team.
Well into his 50s.
Not that young.
No, but he is 44 years and 55 days old.
Minnesota, after he was dismissed by Atlanta, kicking the tires on Colon. 1-2 on Spangenberg. And it's a sharp ground ball. Amarista makes a nice play. That's a really good play because it found him with Amarista on the grass, so he's only about 80-85 feet away, Huey.
And a left-handed hitter hitting to it. I think you're more, I don't want to say more ready, but you're more prepared with the right-hander. You think he's going to pull one at you, but the lefty, not so much, but he ranges to his left and makes it look easy on the Subaru Supermo with the spin and throw, knowing that Will Myers still is at third base, who's got good wheels.
Jabari Blash takes a strike. The home run that Blash hit last night to give San Diego a short-lived 2-1 lead went over the center field wall. It traveled an estimated 477 feet. It's the longest home run a Padre has hit in the StatCast era. The StatCast era began in 2015, so it's not ancient, but this was a big fly.
Very short, compact swing, and that's something that they worked on with Alan Zinner, their hitting coach, Mark McGuire, their bench coach. Just try to get him to not swing so hard at the baseball, and you saw the result.
And that's a line shot. Amarista may have a play still to first, and now a second run will score. That's a bad break. The ball in the dirt. Amarista had it just come out of his glove. Blash will get a base hit. He'll get 2 RBIs, and it's 3-0.
What a rocket that he hit. Lexi made a fine effort for this, diving, but when he hit it, popped out, and then knows he has to rush to get rid of it. Mark trying to make that pick and stay on the bag. Look how hard that ball hits into his glove. Doesn't get settled into the webbing on the Subaru Supermo, and then he turns around and fires. You know you don't have much time to react. I think if Mark comes up with that, it's going to be real close at first if he's safe or out.
Well, not the start, not the return that Senzatella was looking for. He had a chance to get out of the inning, having given up only 1 run. They're actually going to give Amarista an error on that for allowing the second run to score. It is a hit. 1 RBI for Blash, and then Perella scored on the throwing error by Amarista. Eric Ibar with a 1-1 count. To first, that's a fair ball, and that'll end the inning. 3 runs come across. There were 3 hits, a pair of doubles, and the Rockies down 3-0 as we are just underway at Coors Field. Offensively in the bottom of the first inning, and that means Charlie Blackmon. Charlie Blackmon. Love that kid.
Oh, I did too. Oh my goodness.
We're going to hear from our little partner in Highlands Ranch before the evening is done. Trust me. Southwest batting order. There's Gerardo. He's going to bat third tonight with Nolan sitting the first part of the ball game out. Mark Reynolds will bat cleanup. Cargo's in there. He's in the 5 spot. Trevor Story, Alexi Amarista, Tony Walters, Antonio Senzatella against an intriguing arm. Dinelson Lamet is 3-3. He's got a high ERA, 5.93. But this kid's got a big arm and a really good slider. He's 6'4". He looks the part. Striking out a lot of guys.
And that's going to be the key tonight, is does he command the strike zone? Because there's no doubt his fastball is 95 miles an hour. The slider's very, very hard at 86. Guys are hitting 122 against him.
Charlie's doing a sight survey. None of the Rockies have ever seen Lamet. Watches a couple of pitches go by, and he's ahead 2-0. Struck out 12 Brewers in a game earlier this year. 3-0 on Charlie.
Mentioned the fastball, slider, and changeup, and all 3 are above average, major league average, talking to some scouts that have watched this guy grow up throughout the minor leagues and now into the big leagues.
And that's a 4-pitch walk. Well, that's what you want to have. When you've just given up 3, get a quick base runner. So Blackmon jogs down to first, and that'll bring up LeMahieu. Former LSU star, he's been rocking and rolling offensively. He was 1 for 3 with a walk last night, drove in a run, scored a run. He's batting .430 since June the 15th. That is the best mark in baseball.
37 for 86 during that time.
If you want to carry it back even further to June 2nd, he's batting .379. That hits the strike zone there. So often, as the top 2 guys in the lineup go, so go the Rockies. When they're on base, they typically are. It's usually a good night for Colorado. This is fair, and there's only 1 play, and that's to first. Spangenberg throws out DJ, and Blackmon in scoring position now. Let's take a look at San Diego defensively this evening. Jose Pirela is in left, Manuel Margot is in center, and Jabari Blash is occupying right field. There's Spangenberg at third. Ibar and Aswahe is at second base with Will Myers at first, and this is Luis Torrens behind the plate. How about Parra? He's played 7 ball games since coming off the DL, and he's got an RBI in all 7.
That surprised me.
Well, we've been watching it. It seems that way.
Well, the home runs in back-to-back games.
4th time in his career he's done that.
His home run last night. The night before it was a pull job. This one, he goes the opposite way. Takes it out to left center field for Kevin Quackenbush.
Gerardo's hitting .447 with runners in scoring position this year.
The Rockies needed all of those runs last night.
As it turned out, they were up 8-3, and it got a little sticky. San Diego closed to 8-6. Rockies had to use 4 pitchers to get 3 outs in the 8th inning.
Mike Dunn came in and got that left-hander, get Carlos to end the 8th inning. Otherwise, I think you would have seen Greg Holland there in the 8th.
You would have had 5 pitchers without question. You would have seen Greg for a 4-out save. Fortunately, it worked out as Mike got a fly ball to center field. Saw that graphic a moment ago. How about the Nats?
Oh.
Murphy's having a tremendous year. Harper's having a tremendous year. Ryan Zimmerman's having a tremendous year. Rendon has come on.
Rendon was the National League Player of the Week.
3-1. The walks were an issue yesterday for San Diego. When the Rockies scored 5, Huey, in that 3rd, Reynolds walked with the bases loaded. Desmond followed that up by walking with the bases loaded. First time in a few years that the Padres bench had to watch back-to-back bases loaded walks issued by one of their pitchers. And a guy that's not easy to walk just walked. Gerardo Parra goes down to first, and for Parra, that is just his 7th walk all year.
Yeah, Lamet had 4 walks in his last start against Cleveland in just 4 innings.
I don't know if it has anything to do with it, but we always feel obligated to say this. Some guys, young guys, they hear about Coors Field, they come to Coors Field, and they try to be extra fine. You see the walk totals elevating.
I think there's a certain factor that does apply. Or if not, you'll have maybe a veteran pitcher tell you, hey, make sure you don't walk anybody here, because then if you get a home run, it's a 3-run home run. So that's in the back of your mind.
So here's Mark Reynolds, and Mark drives his ball to center field and deep. Margot back to the wall. See you later. Tie ball game. Be like Mark. That deficit didn't last long, did it?
Not at all.
Home run number 20. What a time for it.
Well, Mark did the right thing. He saw Gerardo walk. A couple walks out there. What does the pitcher not want to do to the next guy? He doesn't want to fall behind. He wants to lay one right in there for you. So Mark, being the veteran hitter that he is, said, okay, you're going to do that. You're going to pay now.
Ambushed him.
He did. 20th home run, 66 RBIs. What a welcome sight. San Diego says, oh, we got the 3-0 lead. Not so fast. Mark clips this on the Subaru Supermo. No doubt about it, to center field.
Yeah, you can tell when he hit it, he knew he got it. Which is saying something. When you hit the ball over the center field wall and you break into your home run trot right away, you are a strong dude.
How many times has he done that in his career, though? For you and I, it's, oh boy, that's not going to happen. But for him, he's done it a number of times.
Thank you for including me in that conversation. That's very kind
even
of
from
you.
fantasy camp, the rec league softball,
yeah,
you know.
Exactly. 1-1 on Cargo. There's a shift on. And
good
that's
eye.
outside. That's a good eye. That's Cargo getting himself in a decent count on that swing pitch, even though it was inside the Subaru strike zone. 2-1. Cargo in batting practice, and batting practice is batting practice. We get that. But really, did it seem to you, Huey, the last couple of days, spent a lot of time trying to let that ball get deep, and a lot of balls going to left and left center.
Really working just on some rhythm and timing today. I really noticed it in batting practice. Didn't get anything there, but he's working his backside off to try to get this right.
2 gone, and that'll bring up Trevor Story, who's also been working very hard. Up and in on Story. Average has climbed over the last couple of days to 230. 3 RBIs last night, and on Sunday in New York he had a couple of RBIs.
Much needed for Trevor, much needed for the team. We talked about it last night. You can't just continue to rely on the same guys. You need some production from other places in the batting order.
I come back to the statement that Buddy Black made a few days ago. He was asked in New York about, Trevor Story and Carlos Gonzalez. He's handled that question quite a bit naturally. And he said, hey, they're really, really talented. Cargo obviously has a long list of accomplishments. He believes in his guys. And he said, for us to be the best Rockies team we can be, yeah, we need those guys to be
right,
their best.
They have to be, and that's when you have everybody contributing. That's when you go on the 5, 6, 7 game win streaks. Do those things where you keep moving forward.
Two and 2 on Story. And Lamet gets a strikeout. Rockies get after Lamet, though. He walked 2, and then Mark Reynolds hit a bomb to center field to get this thing even once again. So the Padres get 3 in the top half of the first, and in the bottom of the first, the Rockies get 3.
inning. Tuesday is a Toyota Twitter takeover. Tonight, our guest is Ian Desmond. Ian Desmond, obviously not in the starting lineup today. I probably could just go down into the dugout and ask him to answer some of the questions, but we did. Over the course of today, we had Twitter questions sent to Ian Desmond. Earlier today, I asked him, so we will start showing these Twitter responses from Ian later on in today's day. So pay attention to it. Ian Desmond was great. I love it. I can't wait to show you the answers. Guys?
All right, Spilly, that'll be a novel Tuesday evening. The player's response. That'll be pretty cool.
That will be.
Torrens is at the plate. He's batting 8th. He's catching this evening. First pitch strike from Sensatella. Walters sets up low and away, and the target is hit, but it evidently was just off the plate, so it's 1-1.
Said it was outside. See?
Orioles beating up the Rangers,
Yeah.
huh? Orioles have some starting pitching issues.
Bit of an understatement.
Well, our old friend,
to...
I was going to say, Huey, your old club and our old friend Ubaldo Jimenez. You know, Ubaldo doesn't have the great fastball he once had. He has an ERA over 7. 2 1s fouled off.
Orioles are 43 and 49, 8 games back in the East.
They got some bullpen arms. A big chip at Zach Britt. This ball to right, and this ball is foul, fortunately. That would have been a problem. Always a fun time. There are 2 times in Major League Baseball that everybody's abuzz. Who's going to get moved? Because baseball, more so than the other sports, you don't see major trades in football, certainly. Occasionally in hockey, you'll see a significant trade.
But that's probably second. I think hockey's probably second behind baseball.
Yeah. Basketball, it's always got to be a shuffling of salaries and that sort of thing. But baseball, there's always been the intrigue of the hot stove league in the winter, and then right before the non-waiver wire deadline in late July.
Well, yeah, I mean, it is all fun and games for everybody playing the fantasy league GM, unless you're the player and your name's being bannered around. This is maybe not quite as much fun.
Here's something to me that Spilly and I touched on in New York, and I want to get your thoughts on this. Here's the 2-2 again. And a ground ball to Mark Reynolds. He'll run to the bag, and Torrens is out. We simplify things and we say buyers or sellers. You know, all the scribes writing about who may get moved, what teams, may be interested in selling, what teams may be interested in pursuing a starter or an extra bat, that sort of thing. You have to keep in mind before you part with significant young players, whether they're at the big league level or well thought of young players in the minor league system, what you're getting in return for where you think you will be. In other words, if you're competing for a division title, that's one thing. But if you're competing for a wild card and you sell the farm, not literally, but sort of,
yeah.
Figuratively, you're going to get yourself in all likelihood into, and if it works out, you're in a 1-game playoff. Anything can happen in a 1-game playoff.
Exactly. That's the Pirates from a few years ago.
Right. You could have the 27 Yankees, Huey, and lose a 1-game playoff, and you say, what did we give up to get ourselves in a better position to make that 1-game playoff?
I think one other layer that you could add to that too, though, is how long are you going to have that guy under control? Okay, is he going to be a free agent in 2 months, month and a half? Or is he under control for another year, 2 years past then?
Yep. It's
well, that's why it's not just as simple as, hey, trade X for Y. There's a lot more involved.
You got to weigh a lot of things. And obviously fans, they just want to see you improve. but at what cost? And then the other side of it is, and I'm a big believer in this, is that the playoffs find you, not necessarily the other way around. Margot hits this ball well to center field. Charlie runs to a spot, comes back, makes the catch. So it's a 1, 2, 3 seconds. Senzatella needed that. We'll continue our conversation on the other side. Rockies 3 and the Padres 3 as we go to the bottom of inning number 2. Colorado Rockies baseball on AT&T Sportsnet is brought to you by the 2017 Toyota Tundra in your hometown Toyota stores and by Southwest Airlines. Yes to low fares with nothing to hide. That's transparency. What is Ryan Spilborghs doing now? And Spilly, get off the field. We always, not just me, we always describe Spilly when he was playing as having balletic moves in the outfield.
I was asked, because we were talking about Nolan being a ballet dancer on the field, is the best way to describe him. So they told me to dance like a ballet dancer, and that was my best I could do. Tiny Dancer, good song.
That's a great song.
Great song.
I just enjoy, because I never know what you're going to do when I come to the ballpark.
You think he knows what he's going to do?
No,
Yeah,
but
I
I'm
have
just
no
saying, he makes my day. He makes my day with some of his antics. So continue on, Spill.
Spilly, you're unique, buddy. We love you. You're unique, and that's better than not being unique.
I've had that before where people are like, yeah, you're unique with the big hearty hand pat, you know, the pat of the back. Like, you're really special. You. You do you.
Really well.
Yeah.
Nice pirouette.
It was nice.
Fouled off by Alexi Amarista. 2 balls, 2 strikes on Alexi. 7-8-9 for the Rockies.
See if you can add on to this offense after what you did in the bottom half of the first inning. Antonio did his job with the quick 1, 2, 3 in the top half.
So nice. You know, we always talk about Huey chipping away when you're down by a decent number. The Rockies were down 3-0 before they had swung the bat. So nice when you get the old-fashioned 3-run bomb.
Yeah, field goals are good in baseball.
Yeah, and now you're back even. As opposed to, okay, we got a run in the second. We're down 3-1. Now it's the fourth. We get another run. It's not insurmountable, 3 runs, but had the Rockies not done anything in the first, a little more pressure on Senzatella. He's already
Well, and this puts
down.
Some pressure on Lamet, too. Pitcher for the Padres. Wow, I had that 3-0 lead. That was gone in a heartbeat.
Strike 3 on Amarista. He didn't like it. You know, we haven't talked to Spilly in a long time. Let's see what he's up to. Spilly?
Well, today's a Toyota Twitter takeover. Ian Desmond took over for us, and so he answered questions throughout the day. There's some tweets that were sent towards him, and so it was asked, who was your favorite player growing up? And Ian Desmond responded that, look, there's a lot of guys that take a little bit of everybody. He did love Andrew Jones, but for him, the answer was little pieces of a lot of players. And you can see it in the way he plays the game. 4 out of the last 5 years, 2020 player.
And the thing about Ian that you know has been interrupted this year by a couple of DL stints that you're going to find, and I think you've obviously been able to see this when you watch Ian play. It's a hard playing guy who loves to compete. 2 strikes on Tony.
I think that's evident by after he left Washington, he went and played left field for the Rangers. They asked him to play center field. He went out that night, started playing it. Didn't say, well, I need 2 days to practice out there. I'll just do whatever. This year, hey, you're going to be playing a lot of first base. Now, that didn't happen.
It's how he sees himself. He doesn't see himself as necessarily a one-position guy. He sees himself as a baseball player. Left center field, Margot is going to give way to Perella. 2 outs. 2 outs, and Senzatella will take his turn. Senzatella takes outside. On the corner, 1-1. Rockies pitchers have helped themselves at different times this year. Not a fancy average at 154 for Senzatella, but he's driven in 5. And also with some RBIs is Marquez. He's got 5. Kyle Freeland has a home run. John Gray has a home run.
Ramon had the base hit last night to drive in a run.
Well, he has struck out 4 of the last 5, has Lement, after the Rockies got a 3-run home run from Mark Reynolds. We'll go to the 3rd, tied at 3 at Coors Field. It is time to rock your routine, brought to you by our friends at UC Health. This is footage tonight of Chad Bettis throwing, and Chad is going to throw in the neighborhood of 45 pitches. He threw 46. He went 2 2/3, gave up a run on a home run, 2 other hits, 3 strikeouts, a walk. 29 of the 46 were strikes. In his second outing, his next outing, he'll go in the neighborhood of 60 pitches. Before the ball game, here's what Chad told us he would be looking to work on this evening.
I kind of worked on what I needed to my first rehab start. So now it's more about getting more into the game, reading hitters, and getting back into what you're doing and what you're expected to do at the big league level, and not only getting guys out, but understanding what situation, what pitch needs to be thrown, and executing that pitch instead of necessarily just working on something.
So there is the line. The UC Health Rock Your Routine. It's just so good to see him out there. And I know we focused a lot on that, and Chad right now, he's not focusing on what he's gone through. He's focusing on being a major league pitcher in the not too distant future and helping the Colorado Rockies get to Rocktober.
Yeah,
that's what he's about.
That's all he's thinking about. It's you could just tell by his answer to the question of, I'm thinking fast forwarding, and how is it going to affect me, and what am I going to be able to do when I go to the major leagues and trying to get hitters out? Am I going to set them up? Do all those little things that you have to do.
Carlos Asuaje with the ground ball to second on the first pitch of the 3rd inning, and now Will Myers takes a strike. Senzatella ready again, and that's a fastball just off the edge of the outside corner or glove side. 1 ball, 1 strike. Diamondbacks made some news today, didn't they?
Oh, they did. Gave up 3 prospects.
Got a big bat we'll tell you about in a moment. Two balls and a strike on Myers.
Good pitch.
Senzatella tonight is utilizing that slider more and more. There it is in the Subaru strike zone. Down and away from Will Myers. Challenged him up, and that is playable. Who's going to make the catch? It'll be Mark Reynolds.
That is pitching 101. A little slider, then locate the fastball up under the hands of Will Myers.
Here's Jose Perella. He had a double to drive in a run in the first. And Perella takes ball 1. I'll tell you more about that Arizona trade when we come back after this half inning. Arizona playing tonight, trying to snap that 5-game losing streak. They were hot when the Dodgers were hot. Dodgers haven't cooled off, as we know. The Rockies were going through some rough times. Looks like Arizona may be on their way to snapping that 5-game losing streak tonight in Cincinnati. Another strike. This is the Antonio Senzatella that we've come to expect, where he's dotting the I on the black of the outside corner to right-handed hitters with that mid to high 90s fastball. He goes out there again at 97 and misses 2-2.
I said there's got to have been some nerves for Antonio not starting for close to a month. Been down in AAA, knew he was going to come back up and get back into the rotation. I'm sure he was I need to impress from the first pitch, and it just didn't have his location that first inning.
3-2 on Perella. He had a fastball to the left field corner for the double in the first. He's got a 3-2 pitch here. And this will be an easy play for DJ. Nicely done. Back-to-back, 1, 2, 3 innings for Senzatella. He looks like he's settled in. Top of the order for the Rockies when we return in a 3-3 affair. We told you Arizona made a big move today. They have really struggled against left-handed pitching this year, hitting a collective .214. So they went out and got a slugger who hits right-handed. J.D. Martinez, a 29-year-old who's been with Detroit forever, is due to be a free agent. They gave up 3 prospects to Detroit in return. Martinez this year having another strong year, .305 average, 16 home runs. Rockies are just a half game behind Arizona in the wild card chase. Here's the 0-1 to Charlie, and that's a strike 0-2. They got Dawel Lugo, who's, depending on if you look at Baseball America or MLB.com, number 2 or number 4 prospect in Arizona's chain. He's a slick fielding third baseman, converted shortstop. Sergio Alcantara, who is a shortstop with a good glove.
Yeah, he was 15th on their list, depending on who you go by. MLB.com, that's what they have him at.
And then a young player in rookie ball, Jose King, who they think has a nice bat. So Detroit went and got 3 young players, and at least for the next couple of months, J.D. Martinez is a Diamondback. So obviously the Rockies will see him. Colorado hooks up again with Arizona.
Remember, it was just a few years ago for J.D. Martinez that he was let go by the Houston Astros at the end of spring training. I think it was 2015. Tigers picked him up, made some mechanical adjustments, and now he's that big bat.
Now he's that big bat. Well, ever since the 3-run home run by Mark Reynolds, Dinelson Lamet has been a different pitcher. He has struck out 5 of the last 6 hitters. I told you off the top of the broadcast, he has the ability to ring up strikeouts. He just throws Charlie Blackmon with a fastball. This is of pitchers who've made a minimum of 5 starts this year. Lamet's made 8 prior to tonight. Striking out more than 12 hitters per 9 innings pitched. You get your name up there with the Scherzers and the Sales of the world. That's pretty good stuff.
Well, 4 out of 8 starts, he struck out 8 or more. Very live arm for Lamet.
The Rockies last night struck out just 3 times. DJ, that late breaking slider, is behind 0-2.
There's really no secret the difference between what he was early and what he is now. I mean, early he was walking guys, so he had to come in, lay the fastball in. And now he's starting to get ahead. 0-1, 0-2, working the sliders.
And this is on the ground to second. Fans, when the Rockies score 7 runs or more, as they did yesterday, go to participating Colorado Taco Bell locations the next day between 4 and 6 and get your Rockies taco special at Moss at Taco Bell. Gerardo Parra walked and scored in the first on the 3-run home run to dead center field by the guy who's on deck, Mark Reynolds. Today is Lamet's 25th birthday.
He's the 31st Padre to make his start on his birthday.
How'd you do on your birthday? Did you have any memorable games on your birthday?
I don't remember any.
Billy, do you have any memorable games on your birthday?
Yeah, I had one memorable one, but I also had a very non-memorable one. The last baseball game I ever played in the big leagues was on my birthday.
Was it really?
Way to go, Drew.
I didn't know that. I really did.
I'm not laughing at you, Billy. I'm laughing with you. I know that feeling. Like, really? Last big league game, I know that feeling.
Give us the sour lower lip. There you go. Sorry, dude. No artwork tonight. 3-0 on Parra. And Parra has walked twice in one game. Spilly, go congratulate him.
I should go congratulate him. Good job, Gerardo! Gonna work the walks tonight. It's awesome. How's that?
Perfect.
That's perfect.
Okay, did they throw him a first pitch fastball after he ambushed him the first time? Or did they throw a slider?
We are about to find out. Slider.
Yeah, because after what he did in the first inning on the first pitch fastball, hit it out to dead central, 3 RBIs, 20th home run of the season.
Mark frustrated. He tried to check his
those foul
swing and
balls.
it nicked his bat, so it's 1-1. That was the first home run, by the way, for Reynolds in 56 at bats. Last time he went deep was in San Francisco against Matt Cain. It was good to see Mark with his 20th home run. One and two. Seventh time Mark's career that he has eclipsed the 20 home run mark. His career best 44 jacks in 09 with Arizona when he drove in a career best 102. Done a nice job for San Diego by and large this year. Rockies won't see him this week, but Jolie Chassin.
He has.
2-2. This ball pulled to left, but it is right at Jose Pirela. That'll end the inning. Parra walked, each left aboard, and we move to the fourth. Rockies 3, Padres 3 on a Tuesday night in Lodo.
3. Today is a Toyota Talk Takeover. Ian Desmond is our special guest. He's been answering Twitter questions throughout the day. He had to send in the questions earlier. He would answer them. And today, who's asked, what is Ian's most memorable offensive play? Well, Ian responds, it was his first major league home run off Joe Blanton at Nats Park. And by the way, he gave me a little insight. He said he hit it way back.
Memories are always fun to relive.
Here we go, boys, into the 4th inning. Corey Spangenberg batting 5th in the Padres lineup tonight. He hit a sharp ground ball. It was snared by Amarista playing 3rd tonight. Nolan just getting a day off, and that's a nice play at first by Mark Reynolds.
2 sparkling defensive plays off the bat of Spangenberg. The one you mentioned to Alexi, and now this one by Mark. Just knocks it down, smothers it, gets up bare hand, steps on the bag. Subaru Supermo. You see that ball does kind of just sit there on his glove. Good thing he wasn't very far away, just 2 steps and he's out.
Jabari Blash, he hit that rocket that Amarista almost came up with. Went in and out of his glove. Once he got the baseball, threw low to first and turned into a base hit. 2 runs would score. Could have scored it either way. Could have scored a single and 2 RBIs. They scored it a single, 1 RBI, and because the ball bounced and got away from Mark for a moment, it was 1 RBI and a throwing error on Alexi.
Yeah, I would hate to tack on an extra earned run for Antonio, but just watching that runner come around 3rd, he was going the whole way. And I'm not sticking up just for Alexi to keep him from having an error. I mean, the run's going to score anyway. I just thought it was 2 RBIs for Jabari because that runner never stopped running.
There was last night in last night's ball game. I thought of the 3 runs against Marquez, they gave 3 earnings, and it should have been 2. That is down low on Blash. So a 1-out walk. That ends a run of 8 in a row retired by Senzatella.
Fans, you want to catch the action when the Pittsburgh Pirates come to town Friday, July 21st through Sunday, July 23rd. Purchase your tickets online at Rockies.com.
Here's Eric Ibar. Ibar takes a strike from Senzatella. 60 pitches in for Senza. Ibar was on the Dominican WBC championship team in 2013, and this has slowly hit the 2nd. DJ gives a cursory glance toward Story. He knew he had no play on Blash, who runs well for a big kid.
He does, but I think DJ also gets a different hop. You would think possibly going to second base. It was just such an in-between hop. He didn't want to try to rush it and bobble it.
You could feel those coming, can't you?
You can. And that's what the good fielders like DJ, they know when they're going to, where that runner is, what that hop's going to be, the score, how many outs, all of that factors in as that ball's coming to you, what I'm going to do with it. And with that put out at first, I'll go ahead and put the catcher on to get to the pitcher, Lamet.
On a 3-3 game, middle innings, why mess around?
Well, and it also could add 4, 6, 7, 8 pitches to Antonio.
That struck out swinging his first time. It's a slider. It's off the plate, ball 1. Padres have played better baseball. We've discussed that the last couple of days. In fact, they had won 2 in a row till the Rockies beat them yesterday 9-6. They'd won 7 of 10 prior to their loss yesterday. And over the last 7 weeks, they're an above 500 team. Copa says strike one. When he says that, it's official. 1-1.
It's a very loud and emphatic.
Let you know. Swung on and missed. 1-2. I always say this with a pitcher. Don't get fancy
mess around.
here.
Well, we saw, what game were we doing? We saw they threw a curveball, sped up his bat for his first hit or something.
Yeah, and it was the day late on the 95,
yeah.
right? 1-2. Whoa, outside 2-2. Senza gave up 3 in the first. Then he retired the next 8 before walking Jabari Blash. Blash is at second. Torrens at first.
It was a curveball to Derek Holland, the White Sox.
Swung on and missed. Holland's last hit was in the Clinton administration. Middle of 4, Rockies 3, Padres 3. Hey, it's time for our high-speed CenturyLink challenge. Here's what you do. Cast your vote at AT&T Sports Net RM. If you were in the dugout, which would you choose? Gum. And there's all kinds of good flavors, too. I'd chew the purple gum for like 28 seconds and then spit it out, all the flavors.
And then I go to maybe the watermelon one.
Well, watermelon's not bad. Seeds, there's all kinds of flavors. Or no, you would partake.
I'd alternate between the gums and the seeds.
Spilly, what would you do?
Well, it's not what I would do. Ian Desmond, since it's Toyota Twitter takeover, he said sugar-free gum, but he really enjoyed pistachio nuts. Now, you may be wondering, well, where does a baseball player get pistachio nuts? There's pistachio nuts, and he would eat them with the Texas Rangers last year, so I'm sure he's looking for them right now.
Yeah, I like pistachio nuts. I've never seen that as an option, though. Cargo with a bouncer to the right side. They had the shift on, so it's grabbed by Ibar, 1 out.
Actually, that was Spangenberg.
Oh, my bad.
So it's going to go down to 5-3, but where he was, it was more like a 4-3. That's Spangenberg right there. That's the third baseman. Got that, but he's played a lot of second base.
1 out. Story at the plate. Trevor struck out. 5 strikeouts in the ball game for Lamet. 25-year-old today. out of Santiago in the Dominican Republic. And a strike.
Signed by the Padres as an international free agent in June 2014.
And here the Rockies are hitting in the fourth. They have just one hit. It was a big one, though, the 3-run home run from Mark Reynolds. 2 strikes.
See that slider being thrown a lot more by Lamet.
Two on Story. Out of the Dallas-Fort Worth area. He was going to go to LSU if he didn't sign out of high school.
Didn't get a chance last year to play in front of his friends and families back in Texas because we went to Texas right after he got hurt with his thumb.
That was a bummer.
He was bummed about that.
One and 2. And he got him on a high fastball. That's a 97. 6 strikeouts for Lamet. Alexi struck out looking on a 3-2 fastball.
That averaged over a strikeout per inning pitch last year between A-ball, Lake Elsinore, AA San Antonio, and AAA El Paso. A lot of the stops in the Padres chain.
Well, after signing and trading for so many big names under A.J. Preller when he first took over, this ball is down the right field line, and it's going to be extra bases. One hops the wall, and Amarista into second with a 2-out double.
Little ninja coming through with a broken bat double.
With a broken bat double off the bat, you're saying, okay, I don't think Blash is going to get to it, but it went further than we thought.
Look how that was on the label on the Subaru Supermo. 8th double of the season for Alexi. Now how do the Padres play? Did they put him on? I think they do. Just like the Rockies did.
I don't know. I think they're going to go after Tony Walters, see if they could steal an out here in the 4th and have the pitcher leading off the 5th. That's what Andy Green's strategy is right now. I think this will be one of those deals that if it gets to 2-0, he may then go ahead and put him on.
But you always run the risk with the young pitcher of saying, okay, be careful, don't make a mistake, and he makes a mistake, and I hope he does. Don't get me wrong. Now they just put him on.
Yeah, that was nowhere close. I'm looking at Andy Green. And
why not just do it?
No signal yet. You got to be ready to make him pay right here.
Yes,
if you're Tony Walters. 3-0.
So he just wasted 3 pitches.
So now it'll go in the book as an intentional walk, and that'll bring up Senzatella. Antonio, every once in a while, surprise you. He's got 5 RBIs. Sell out on a first pitch heater.
I remember a big double in right center field. He was selling out, all right.
Yeah.
Like it was a backup slider at the mile per hour, just seeing it at 86.
Senzatella with a high-quality swing right there. He's on the 96-mile-an-hour fastball. 2 strikes. Arizona's extended their lead in Cincinnati tonight to 11-2. And Lamet strikes out Senzatella. 2 left on in the 4th, but the Rockies do flip the lineup over. So we turn the page to inning number 5. We're tied at 3. Colorado Rockies baseball on AT&T Sportsnet is brought to you by Subaru. Love, it's what makes a Subaru a Subaru. And by the Wyoming Office of Tourism. Wyoming is full of adventure. It's time to find out if you are too. That's why TravelWyoming.com.
How are those people staying on that when it moves so fast? Watch. It was just spinning out of control. Never seen a Ferris wheel go that fast.
That doesn't seem safe to me. Rockies 3, Padres 3. Not many hits for either side. Senzatella, after a rough first inning, has settled in nicely. He has not allowed a hit since the first. A couple of walks, one of them intentional in the 4th inning. And he'll reset on the top of the lineup. Manuel Margot, good-looking young player for the Padres. Carlos Suaje and then Will Myers. Margot popped to second and a fly ball to center field. Rockies shade him a little bit toward right center. And the first pitch from Senzatella is right down Spear Boulevard.
Spear, okay.
Spear Boulevard. Everybody always picks Broadway. Why Broadway?
I don't know.
That was on Harrison Street. That's a strike also. 0-2. Used to live on Harrison Street, Cherry Creek.
Uh-huh.
Oh, man. It's just off Colfax. 1-2.
Oh, my, you're on the roll tonight.
2-2. Spilly.
Yo.
You all right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sun went down for you. That's good.
No, it's been great. It's nice. I'm digging all the street names. What are you going to do right here when he blows it past me?
What should we come up with?
I like Larimer.
Who fouled off on Federal.
You're just going to open the Atlas and the street guide. Just kind of look at it.
Lived in Denver 30 years plus, so got a few more. In the air to fairly deep right field, and there is Cargo. Living on Julian Street, 1 out. All right, that's enough.
Yes, please, because I got a Rockies right here. Because Rockies baseball is always live with the MLB.com at Bat mobile app. Stay connected all season with video highlights, stats, news, and much more. You can follow the Rockies on your phone.
This kid's been a pain in the neck at the plate.
Yes, he has.
Carlos Oswahe. God, I apologize to him every time. He had 3 hits last night. He's got a double tonight. He takes a strike. Oswahe, a single, a double,
Well, a lot
and
of
an RBI single in the 7th yesterday.
a lot of these young players for the Padres getting a chance to prove themselves at the major league level.
Got a good mentor in Andy Green. Steady hand. Very cerebral guy. There's Andy Green. You know, we were talking earlier, and then there was a double by Amarista. San Diego went all in A.J. Preller's first year. And went out and got Matt Kemp and the Uptons. And,
well, they won the Hot Stove League.
and James Shields. Yeah, I mean, they were. That was the biggest victory in the Hot Stove League in a number of years. It was the Padres making deal after deal. Remember Craig Kimbrell late before the season started? It was one after another. It didn't work out.
No.
They were below 500, and then they unloaded a lot of those names, and now they're going back to the old-fashioned way, which I don't care if you're New York, LA, or a small market team. You have to build through the farm system. Yeah, there's more margin for mistakes if you're Los Angeles, or
you can eat
if
some
you're
contracts.
New York or Boston. 3 ones in there, 3 and 2. But even look at the Dodgers this year. Big part of their success has been the play of a guy from their system, Cody Bellinger.
But even if you're going to trade for somebody, you're usually going to trade for some prospects. You need to have those marketing chips.
Yep. 3-2. Fouled off.
I think it does begin a lot of times. I don't want to say it ends, but with your scouting and player development.
3-2 and a ground ball. That ball cut just enough to come off the barrel and induce a routine play for DJ LeMahieu. Nice pitch on 3-2 by Sensatella.
8th ground ball out for Antonio. Cut fastball comes into the hands of the Subaru Supermo. Tied Carlos up. Could get extended.
Will Myers a walk and a pop out. Keeping track of that pitch count. It's at 79. This ball's well hit left center field by Myers, and the Padres have taken a 4-3 lead. He always seems to burn the Rockies at some point. 0 for 5 last night, but he just hit his 17th home run of the year.
One of 3 guys in the major leagues to lead his club in both home runs and stolen bases. Will Myers. The other 2 guys, Paul Goldschmidt and Mookie Betts. Now missed location. Antonio knew it. As soon as he threw it, just drop his head. They wanted that fastball away. It creeps back inside. You see where Tony set up. Myers didn't miss it.
Swung on and missed.
That was the 16th home run allowed by Antonio.
One on Jose Perella, ground ball to DJ. So we'll go to the bottom of the 5th inning, and the Rockies are down a run, 4-3.
has the Padres up 4-3. Well, yesterday, Ian Desmond on his Twitter account, at Ian Desmond 20, Desmond 20, he sent this picture out. Tupac knew what was up. You can see Tupac wearing a Rockies Catch the Fever and carrying a pizza. Well, somebody asked, well, what is Tupac's best song? And Ian responds, Dear Mama. I'm not sure. Do you know the lyrics to this one, Drew? Most of the lyrics I can't really, it's not suitable for air tonight, but it's a fantastic song. I recommend you playing it on your iPad or your cassette.
8-track.
This ball's driven to center field and deep. Did Charlie tie it up? Off the glove of Margot. Run, Charlie, run. He'll stop at third. Lead off triple. Charlie Blackmon.
#12th triple of the year. I thought we might have an inside the Parker again. Margot ran hard into that wall. And Charlie laces this one to dead center field. Margot makes a heck of an effort to go get it.
That baby, Charlie!
Never gets old.
Never.
Nope.
DJ LeMahieu will try to tie up the game with Charlie at third. Infield's back.
Those 12 triples. He doubles the next closest guy.
That kid, who we love, we're going to meet that kid. That kid is Spilly 35 years ago.
Oh my goodness.
It's not even close.
No,
Charlie's got 6 more triples.
Castellanos with Detroit, Zach Cozart, Billy Hamilton with Cincinnati. All 3 of those guys have 6.
It's also a 13-game hitting streak now for Charlie, who's hit well over 400 during that stretch, including 5 home runs. Line drive to right. Blash is playing near the line. He drops the baseball. Charlie would have scored anyhow. That'll be a sac fly. E9. Jabari Blash just flat dropped the baseball. Tied at 4.
Not sure why he was in such a rush to try to catch the ball and get rid of it. And Charlie's going to score anyway. Right? So he thinks, oh, wait, if I catch it and get rid of it, I'll be able to throw him out. But he forgot to catch the baseball. Took his eye off it on the Subaru Supermo. That is his 2nd error of the season, the 63rd by the Padres.
Gerardo Parra, 2 walks in the game. Let's see if the young man gets rattled at all. Lamet had been cruising along since the 1st inning. He is 75 pitches in. Outside on Parra. Last year, Dinelson pitched at 3 different levels: High A, Double A, and Triple A. This ball pulled in the hole, a base hit for Parra, and LeMahieu will stop at 2nd. They're 2 on, nobody out. Mark Reynolds coming up.
Gerardo says, you're not going to walk me this time. I'm going to get a pitch and I'll yank it into the hole. Well, he started this swing early. That ball was away from him, but got out and around it enough to get it past the 2nd baseman, Carlos. And now you have 1st and 2nd, nobody out. Mark Reynolds has seen this scene before back in the 1st inning.
And this is not Darren Balsley coming out. This is Andy Green coming out, and Andy
Oh,
Green's
he's
going to
going.
make a move. He doesn't like that matchup one more time. A Lamet against Reynolds. 3-run home run and a sharp line drive to left. Heavy on the mind of Andy Green. So the Rockies have tied it. They have 2 on, nobody out in the 5th. On AT&T Sportsnet is brought to you by Southwest Airlines. Yes to low fares with nothing to hide. That's transparency. It's a beautiful night in Denver. The Rockies trying to win their 3rd consecutive ball games, down 3-0 early. Mark Reynolds hit a 3-run homer. They were down 4-3 entering the 5th inning. Charlie Blackmon tripled. He came on a DJ LeMahieu sac fly to right, and on that sac fly to deep right, Jabari Blash dropped the baseball. So LeMahieu reached, then Parra singled. Here comes Reynolds again, and he'll face Phil Maton, kid out of Louisiana Tech. He's done a nice job so far for the Padres. He's been unscored upon in 13 of his 16 appearances.
And just made his major league debut a little over a month ago, back on June 11th.
Reynolds takes a look, and it's a slider for strike 1. So the Rockies a chance to take the lead for the first time in this ball game.
There's some other scouting reports going on. What does this guy have? Fastball 93, changeup, but as we saw a moment ago, a slider, slurvy ball, about 82.
Had some cut to it at 94. A little longer arm action. Reynolds, runners in scoring position. Like a number of Rockies, he's done a lot of damage. .315 batting average. Rockies lead baseball with runners in scoring position. 2 balls and a strike.
But what he will do is he'll make this young man work for this at bat. He's just not going to say, well, he's going to come in and give me a fastball.
He's a guy that will give you a team at bat. You know that. Mark leads the club by a bunch with 47 walks. And that's 2-2. You see more swings, Huey, like that when there is a degree of unfamiliarity.
Definitely. Because you just don't know what you're going to get. And we saw Nolan looking at an iPad last night trying to figure out a pitcher.
Reynolds strikes out on a high fastball, so there's 1 out. And now Cargo will try to produce here in a 4-4 game. Cargo 0 for 2, a strikeout, and a ground ball to the right side.
There's one guy that needs something positive in his at bat is Carlos Gonzalez, not only personally for himself but also for the team. He come through here with a big hit, just help take some of that weight off the shoulders.
0-1 on Cargo. That pitch has beaten him all year. Beat him there also. That pitch, the heater on the inner half.
He's usually so quick, or he has been in the past, so quick getting to that, getting that foot down. The pitch up and in on the Subaru strike zone. Just not able to get that ball in play and do some damage.
Ball and a strike. Tried to come in there again. LeMahieu at second, Parra at first. Outfield is straight up. No swing, 2-1.
You can see the pattern, what the Padres think the hole in the swing at Cargo is. Just take a look at the Subaru strike zone.
Up and in.
Up and in.
They went there again, 2-2. It's hard to remember many at-bats for Cargo that he didn't have at least 2 strikes on him. And a lot of times, as you all know, this year it's been an upside down 2-strike count, an 0-2 or 1-2. Just have not been many 2-0, 3-1 situations because he has expanded his regularity this year. This ball is well hit right center field. How well hit? It is off the base of the wall. LeMahieu has scored. Here comes Parra. 2-run double. Carlos Gonzalez. What a time for him. Good for Cargo. 6-4 Colorado.
Exactly what I was talking about. There was one guy that needed it. It's Cargo. And he delivers. They kept going inside. They kept going up and in. First 5 times, okay, not this time. He gets to it. So nice to see from Cargo. Wow, and the great thing about this too, there was never any doubt when that ball left the bat for Cargo. As you're running out of the box, you can breathe a big sigh of relief. I did my thing. I drove in a couple runs. And then you got the head cheerleader right there with Gerardo Parra.
Yeah, not only the head cheerleader, but as we all know, one of Carlos's closest friends, and that was a slider spinning that said hit me. Story found it right back. Special moment for Cargo, because I think every Rockies fan has a soft place in their heart for Cargo. He's been a great Rocky. He's a beautiful guy, Carlos, and he has struggled like none of us have ever seen.
It has been an uphill battle all year long.
Swing by Story.
Just tells you again, we say how hard baseball is, and you know, Cargo with the numbers that he has and then what he's doing this year. I mean, it would be like saying for LeBron James, who averages 25 or 30 a night, the next year he comes in and averages 10 points a night.
And you're like, when's it going to change? It's going to change, right?
It's going to change.
That was a big blow. Spilly, that was a heck of a time for it.
It was big. It was needed. And the teammates behind him, I was watching Jeff Hoffman just cheering him on. It's from everybody. It's not just Gerardo.
Called strike 3 on Story.
And everybody on this team, the bench organization, knows the team's better off when Cargo's in there and playing like Carlos Gonzalez. Everybody knows that. They're waiting for him to be that guy. And I think you can see it. I mean, the look on his face, we saw it over the last couple of days. The body language for Cargo, it hasn't been there. That's a little bit of a weight lifted off his shoulders. He still wants to keep it going.
Sure.
That has to feel awesome at second base, because if it was anything like what it was in this dugout, I had goosebumps for a bit.
So here's Amarista. He doubled his last time up. 2 outs and 3 runs in the inning. It's a strike on Amarista. And think about this, fellas. The Rockies needed production in that middle to lower portion of the lineup, and has not performed up to their capabilities many a night this year. And if you take tonight, there's a base hit. We'll get back to that thought in a moment. Here comes Cargo. Alexi Amarista coming through. And it's now 7-4. RBI 17 this year for Amarista.
Again for Alexi, they broke his bat the first time he hit that double. They tried to come back inside. Lila just look at those hugs just for a moment, how neat that was. But then Lexi, they go inside. He opens the front side up to get to that baseball. Didn't break his bat this time, but drives in an oh so important RBI.
2-out ribbies, huge. Here's Tony Walters.
That is also 7 runs too.
Now to finish the thought, not just on getting production middle, lower portion of the lineup. There's Nolan giving a big hug to his buddy Cargo, but also on a night where Nolan is getting the day off, Amarista comes through with an RBI. He also has a double tonight. Cargo picking up the lineup a little bit.
You know, Gerardo with the 2 walks and the base hit, he scored 3 runs tonight.
And this is a base hit for Tony. Amarista bluffs, and he'll dive back to the bag, and out at first base is Tony Walters. And that's a boo-boo because Ian Desmond was going to pinch hit for Senzatella. Tony Walters ends up getting picked off first base. Cargo with a 2-run double in what was a 4-4 game at the time. Rockies now up 3. Our Unlimited Baseball break brought to you by our friends at T-Mobile. Some news and notes around the game. Tough break for Houston. Their outstanding young shortstop Carlos Correa is going to be out up to 2 months with torn ligament in his thumb. They have a sizable lead, obviously, in the American League West. Bartolo Colon made his debut tonight with Minnesota. 10 organizations over a 20-year career. And Starling Marte returns after his 80-game suspension for the Pirates tonight. Pirates are not out of the playoff chase either. Pirates will be in here over the weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Cologne, 4 innings, 8 hits, 4 earned runs.
Kind of what he was doing in Atlanta. Really thank you for that. Chris Russin will take over here in the 6th inning. Antonio Senzatella, because the Rockies rallied for 4 runs, has an opportunity to be a double-digit winner. He has 9 wins, and he's on the plus side. Tied for the team lead with Kyle Freeland. Kyle also with 9 victories. First pitch from Russin, swung on and missed by Corey Spangenberg.
First appearance since threw some in that Mets game This is a perfect guy after Antonio with the right-hander, Moore 97, to come in with Chris from the left side, and he can give you multiple innings, and he also is going to lead off next inning.
This is line to left, and it's going to be fouled by a couple of yards. Senzatella pitched 87 pitches, threw 87 pitches. 4 runs in 5 innings, all of them earned, 4 hits, walked 3, one of them intentionally, a couple of strikeouts.
Antonio had 9 ground ball outs tonight.
If Russell goes quick pitch here. Nope. Spangenberg is grounded out twice. Speaking of ground outs, robbed of a potential double by Mark Reynolds in the 4th. Russell not going to have a play. Good catch by Reynolds. Make sure that didn't go down the right field line. That'll be an infield hit. Spangenberg can really run. He's the fastest Padre.
But Trevor's right back up the middle. I know Chris has just reacted, throwing his glove up there, but that was going to be a 2-hopper to Trevor. Instead, with Chris throwing his glove up. We've seen pitchers make this play before where it's just kind of a reaction. He's just swinging at it, but then swung the ball too far away. Spangenberg with the base hit.
So Jabari Blash, line shot, infield hit off the glove of Amarista, and also a walk.
Spangenberg 6 out of 7 stolen base attempts.
Here's the 2-0. 2-1. Ground ball deep in the hole. Story, can he get an out? Safe. Will Blash get hurt legging that out? Back-to-back infield hits. It's a heck of an attempt by Story.
And I was looking for Trevor to go to second first, but with Spangenberg running and off good speed, Trevor from his knees makes his play all the way across the diamond. He just lays out. Sometimes when you lay out like that and your hand goes into the ground that much, you get a bunch of sand and dirt before you grab the baseball. Makes it tough to throw it all the way across.
He's showing bunt right now because it's still early enough in the ball game that the Padres down by 3.
But Jose Torres is warming up for the Padres in the bullpen.
And this gets away for a moment. That can't happen there. Tony's not going to be happy with that sequence. It'll go as a wild pitch.
You got to slide. You got to slide over. You can't just put your glove up and try to pick it. You can do that when nobody's on. But you got to slide over and block that ball. Runners at first and second.
I think every once in a while you see Tony's so good with the glove, and he's a natural middle infielder, that you see some of that coming out in him. The Padres applying significant pressure after the Rockies scored 4 in the bottom of the 5th. Lamet's line, by the way, 4+, 6 runs, 5 earned, 4 hits, 4 walks, 1 intentional. He struck out 7. An intriguing young pitcher for the Padres. In the air to shallow center. Charlotte. And a little bit of miscommunication. He and Parra. I don't know if the runner at third, Spangenberg, would have tagged. I'm guessing he would because he has such great speed.
I think he would with his speed. Even if Gerardo catches this as deep as it was, although I think Gerardo might have a better opportunity if it was going to be thrown home over Charlie, just because of the way he's catching it. Charlie would have to turn his body to get that throw off. Gerardo is just coming in towards home.
Either way, you know, to your original point, the way Spangenberg runs.
But the good thing is you kept Jabari Blash at second base. You didn't try to make that throw all the way home and allow him to get the free 90.
That's why it's not just infielders that have to be thinking before the pitch arrives. And, you know, if it comes to me and I'm moving to my left, I'm going to go here. Moving to my right, I'm going to go here. Slow roller. Outfielders have to think too. Charlie clearly was. He's like, all right, I'm not getting Spangenberg, but I'm going to prevent, with 1 out, another runner at third base. Luis Torrens, ground ball to first, and he was intentionally walked. Matt Caesar's in the on-deck circle in the top of the 6th inning. Keep in mind that the Padres have just 3 men on their bench, and one of them is Hector Sanchez, their only other catcher tonight.
Really, that just means Cordoba is the only other option.
And a ground ball that Story's going to have a tough play on, and he makes it. Good play by Trevor. That's where things change a little bit. Huey, your natural shortstop. That's probably a ball that Nolan would take ordinarily.
Exactly. And this is why it's such a tough play. We're going to freeze it when he fields this ground ball, because normally you would think Lexi's going to go and get it. But now you got Lexi right here. You had the base runner go right in front of you, and you still have to make that throw all the way across the diamond. Because I guarantee you Nolan would cut that off.
Caesar at the plate with 2 outs. And a ground ball foul. Outside, 1-1. Caesar had a pinch hit double in last night's ball game. Don't want to see that here. 1-2. Great crowd tonight. 41,101. Excuse me, 40,101. Beautiful, beautiful evening.
So many great views at this ballpark. Great nights.
Make a pitch here. Russ into Caesar. Ground ball through the hole, base hit. And now it's a one-run game. And that Caesar's done a nice job off the bench in this series for San Diego.
Double last night for Caesar. As a pinch hitter tonight. Seeing eye base hit on a changeup. He reaches for it. Strong enough to pull it in the hole. Now it'll be a double switch.
Jordan Lyles has been warming up. It's going to be Walters or Amarista coming out. So it's going to be Amarista, and one Nolan Arenado is going to take his place. Or no, excuse me, Pat Valaika. Not bad. It's Pat Valaika coming in.
Ian Desmond Rockies t-shirt courtesy of AT&T Sportsnet. Don't want to miss out on that. New pitcher for the Rockies, Jordan Lyles. 31st ball game, 0-2. 146 whip. He's going to be asked to get a few, pick up multiple innings here as Pat Valaika came in on the double switch to take over for Lexi at third base.
And a bouncing ball to short. And that worked out well. One pitch and Jordan Lyles gets Margot. In the inning, 2 runs for the Padres. 7-6, middle of 6. Cooney Lexus look back. It's been an interesting ball game. Jabari Blash with this base hit in the first produced a couple of runs. Rockies down 3-0 before they had a turn at the plate. And when they got their turn, a couple of walks and then a 3-run home run to tie it from Mark Reynolds. Rockies would behind 4-3, then it was 4-4 at Cargo with a 2-run double. Give the Rockies a 6-4 lead. They'd have a 7-4 lead. But the Padres won't go away. They got a couple off Chris Russin in the top of the 6th. So it's 7-6. That's our Cooney Lexus look back as the Rockies come up at the bottom of the 6th. Pat Valaika, Charlie Blackmon, DJ LeMahieu. Pat just came into the ball game in that double switch a moment ago. And this is Torres, one of 3 lefties in the bullpen for San Diego.
You know, hard throwing slinger. It's more 3/4 for Torres at 95 miles an hour. Throw a changeup and an occasional slider.
Jose Torres with a strike. Eaton went 1 inning. And he allowed a run on 3 hits, a couple of strikeouts. And a base hit left center field. Because of the overshift toward right center, Pirela was over in left center. It's off the bat. That's typically a double, maybe even a triple in Coors Field where that one was headed.
Right, and that's why we have to keep reminding ourselves how much the Padres shift. Not only on the infield, but their extreme outfield shift. It's off the bat. That had double written on it, but Jose cut it off real easily.
Here's Charlie. He has scored 2 runs tonight, a triple off the center field wall and part of the glove of Margot his last time up. That extended his hitting streak to 13 games. One of those nights, you just feel it. You got to keep adding on.
Yeah, you have to. You can't take, really don't feel like you can take an inning off.
Charlie hitting .328 against lefties this year, which is 12 points better than he's hitting against righties. He leads all of baseball, coming in with a .399 home average.
It was also just announced that he is the Rockies Heart and Hustle Award winner, Mr. Charlie Blackmon. Full disclosure too, Drew, I had a vote on that. I did vote for him. Okay, just to let you know.
Can't go wrong voting for him for that award.
Major League Baseball picked one winner at the end of the year.
And gets under this one, Margot. 1 out, and that'll bring up LeMahieu. So far, one of the key elements of this game was last inning when DJ hit a deep line drive to Jabari Blash in right. There was going to be an easy sac fly after the leadoff triple by Blackmon, and Blash dropped the baseball. So LeMahieu reached, and then Parra singled. That ran off Lamet. LeMahieu and Parra eventually scored, as did Cargo, who doubled them in.
Last night the Rockies took advantage of some errant baseball by the Padres. Did it again tonight.
Mayhew's hitting .398 against lefties. Line shot. That's dropped. Was it dropped? Nope, they're calling him out. And that was a nice try by Eric Ibar, the veteran shortstop. That was, I'm sure, done intentionally. Did you ever do that, Huey?
No, Never did. Thought about it a few times. Never did it. Ibar's trying to point to the umpire and said, look at this ball and what it did to my hand. Chris Conroy was not having any of it. He immediately called timeout.
Yeah, he dropped that on purpose.
He dropped it and tried to play it off pretty well. But no, you can't do that. You can't try to just drop it when it's right there to turn a double play.
2 outs. Valaika remains at first. And Parra hits it in the air to shallow left. And this is going to drop. And it gets away. And this is going to produce a run. Valaika will come around. It'll be a fly ball double and an RBI for Parra. And he now has an RBI in all 8 ball games since coming off the DL. You will take that.
And how about the base running too of Pat Valaika to run hard?
Never assume.
No. From Perella in left field, I understand the hustle. I get all of that, but you can't make the slide and not stop the baseball. But Pat Valaika, he sees the ball in front of him. He knows he's going to be able to get to third base. And then once it gets by, he runs hard. He's not even looking at Stu until the last moment, knowing he's going to score.
That is a big run. And now Reynolds at the plate with Parra at second. And this is going to be a wild pitch. So Parra moves to third base. Listen, San Diego's played a sloppy baseball game. And Green doesn't want to watch right now. Understand that. What do we always say when a team plays sloppy, Huey?
Take advantage. The Rockies have. They took advantage of the drop fly ball in right field in the 5th inning, and then with that blue double here in the 6th.
Reynolds a chance to help the Rockies get both of those runs back. He can come up with a knock here. Parra playing baseball, conversing with the Padre dugout, visiting with Stu Cole. 2-0's in there on the inside corner, 2-1. Gotta love him, man.
He has fun playing.
And after the game yesterday, he was asked about his performance, the team's performance. 3-1. He said baseball's fun. He said exactly that. He goes, keep it fun.
Too many times you work at it, and then it becomes, it's not fun.
It's not work ball, it's play ball, right?
I know it's your job. I've been there. I know what it is.
One of the guys he's having fun with is Jolie Chassin. 3-1. Ball 4. And now another opportunity for Cargo.
Cargo back in the 5th inning, a 2-2 count. They kept trying to go up and into him. Tried it one too many times, and he got that foot down. The great timing, kisses it off the base of the wall. His 24th RBI and a 24-pound weight lifted off that shoulder.
It's not just the fact that he threw out a double. It's that it was a 2-run double in a 4-4 game. You feel like you contribute. It's obviously been a while for him. Outside.
Go ahead and make it a special night. Get another hit.
That's the thing about this at bat, Huey. He's not thinking trying to hit one in the 3rd deck. He just wants to get a knock somehow and get Parra home.
Somehow, some way.
One and one. One thing he did there, if you noticed, was he shortened the lift.
So he could get his foot down in time. And you know, it all comes down to the timing and the rhythm.
And there's your base hit. And Cargo has given the Rockies a 3-run advantage again. 3 RBI night. And off camera, Cargo just slammed his hands together. That's as much emotion as I've seen from him in a long, long time. That is a big 2-out knock.
Saw him today around the batting practice, by the batting cage, and today, and he was so excited. He was ready to go. He felt like he was in a good place. He said, it's time for me to get going, and good things are going to happen tonight. So happy for Cargo. So are his teammates.
Well, what a big response by the Rockies in the bottom of the 6th. Story fouls that off the end of the bat.
And all this is with 2 outs.
And again, Parra's in the middle of it. Rockies won by a count of 9-6 last night. Strikes on Story. He has fanned 3 times this evening. Pitcher spot is on deck. Ian Desmond standing in the on deck circle right now. Reynolds at second. He walked. Cargo the base hit. He is at first base. 2 runs in. Story gone for the 4th time tonight, but the Rockies counterpunch. 2 runs, 6th inning. 3-run advantage as we move to the 7th.
The 7th, Ian Desmond, our guest for Toyota Talk Takeover. He is also raising awareness about neurofibromatosis. Today, he hosted some NF Heroes. Ian became aware of the disease in Washington about 5 years ago when he responded to a Twitter prayer request from Ethan Brown. They struck a great friendship, but now they both share matching tattoos with both their initials and an N and F tattoo. So the question was, what was about the charity about sharing gloves? And so the Spread the Glove, the charitable efforts, the NF, and it's his effort to reach out to the community, find people's passion, help further the efforts. Now, Ian's been working with NF and NF for about 5 years now, and as I mentioned, his relationship with Ethan Brown, he talks to him all the time, but let me get this thing right. Neurofibromatosis is a pretty rare disease, happens in 1 in 3,000 births, and it's pretty awesome to see that Ian has been the champion trying to raise awareness about it. Guys?
That's part of who he is. Guy who truly gives back.
It's neat when you see athletes that have a platform and they use it for good.
Yep. Absolutely. Swahe 1-2, and this ball's clipped pretty well to right center field. And that's gone. Now it's 9-7. It's like one of those nights, huh, Huey?
Yeah.
Jordan Lyles gives up the big fly. Swahe has been the MVP offensively in this series so far for San Diego. It's a little guy, just hit it a long way.
First home run of his career, and it went into the Padres bullpen. So they'll get the baseball back, and Jordan, he knew it. Tony Wolters knew it. This ball left the bat.
It's the 10th home run allowed by Lyles in less than 41 innings. That's too many. Will Myers with an 0-1, and he lifts this one foul. 0-2.
The other reliever that has allowed more home runs in the National League than Jordan is the guy we saw last night, Craig Stammen. He's given up 11.
The stuff is there for Jordan. I think, you know, some of it has to be a confidence deal. That's a pretty good looking breaking ball that got the Subaru strike zone. Unfortunately, it was called ball 1 instead of strike 3 on Myers. Two and two. Rockies right now in search of some help setting up for Greg Holland. Another slider. It's 3-2. There's nobody up in the Rockies' pen.
Last half inning, Scott Oberg was up, but that was going to be if you got to the pitcher's spot and Ian Desmond had hit.
He's probably not far away. He readies himself pretty quickly, and he's already been firing, as he said.
Buchter is getting loose in the Padres bullpen. Ryan had 2/3 of an inning in last night's game.
And he lost him. He was ahead 0-2. Myers walks, and now the tying run comes up in Perella. Padres got a run in the 5th. They got 2 in the 6th. Rockies 4 in the 5th, 2 in the 6th. Or do you run in here in the 7th inning for San Diego on the home run by Swahe, his first big league home run?
Now you have to be aware of Will Myers at first and the possibility of a stolen base. Scott Oberg again. He's already up on the mound. Take him long.
Oberg has been in 43 games, more than any other Rocky reliever. So 2 strikes on Perella. Time granted. Jake McGee, who's been so reliable this year, he had a tough outing last night.
That to me is just more of a blip on the radar than.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to happen. 0-2. No swing, 1-2. Guys the Rockies love to see get going naturally is Adam Ottavino.
Well, and Mike Dunn, because you think back to April, if you had the lead after the 6th inning, it was over.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, even going into May, before Mike hurt his back.
This is playable right side in foul ground. Reynolds makes the catch, 1 out.
First 10,000 fans on Sunday, July 23rd, will receive a lunch cooler bag courtesy of King Soopers.
Spangenberg's 1 for 3. An infield base hit and would score last inning. Story almost made a marvelous play on him. Actually, you know, that the play I'm thinking of was on Blash. Spangenberg was the one where Russin whipped around and almost had it backhand.
That would have been a great.
Kind of a hard luck inning for Russin.
Especially where Trevor was playing right up the middle.
He had 3 ground balls that turned into hits, and in large measure produced the 2 runs against Chris. Chris is another guy who's had a really good year for the Rockies out of the bullpen, and several roles for Buddy Black. Rockies up 9-7, top of 7. Pretty close. Myers
lead.
with 10 stolen bases.
A big lead by Will Myers at first. Snap throw. Did the right thing. Go to that back corner of the bag, make it a long reach for the first baseman, and that's what Mark had to do. Reach all the way back across to the bag as Myers gets his fingertips on the corner.
Another fairly close play. Myers goes, ground ball towards second, and it's not handled by DJ. That's unusual. So on the error, 2 are on, and that'll bring up Blash.
Rare error for DJ, because he was going to try to flip this to Trevor. Just peeks, ball drops out.
You've been there. The mind was working faster than the body at that point.
Exactly. Your mind's saying, do this, but you forgot to do the most important thing, and that's catch the baseball.
And I think DJ's thought there, even if it's safe, if you go ahead and go through the machinations of turning two, you will get the out at first still.
Right, because it was hit so hard.
Blash swung the bat well. Home run last night, 2 hits, and a walk in this evening's contest. When he got sent to El Paso the last time, he tore up AAA. He's been much better for them since his recall. 1 out, inside ball 1.
Talking to some people, the Padres, he said, "Do you think finally the light bulb came on where he's got to shorten his swing down? It was just too long before." He has the power. I mean, Jabari Bash has the power.
Yeah, natural power. A lot of long limb guys, don't you think, Huey, deal with having a long swing?
Yes.
This is the hump inning for Buddy Black. With the bullpen the way it is right now, he's going to try to get Lyles through this 7th inning, and then in the 8th, as he did last night, whoever he has to match up to get through the 8th, assuming the Rockies have the lead, to get it to Greg Holland. But this is the tricky inning. It's one of those Coors Field games. Buddy saw a number of them from the other side.
Man, it's almost a half season here at Coors Field as a visiting manager. All the games that he had. So he sees it. Andy Green's seen it. Being with Arizona first and now as a manager for San Diego.
The hardest things for managers when they come to Coors Field is to be patient and not overreact to oftentimes a ton of festivity on the field.
Just know that you might have to try to wiggle out of an inning where other places you would make a move soon.
1-1, pulled foul. One-two, and a ground ball to third. Bobbled for a moment, safe there. Man, bases loaded.
2 errors this inning.
Ball off the chest of Valleca, and they're not helping out Jordan at all. This is so unlike the Rockies defensively. Arguably the best defensive team in baseball, and 2 miscues. This is fielded cleanly. You have a really good shot at turning 2.
That would be 2. Drop step, eats him up, comes up off the glove, the fingers. 3rd error of the season for Pat. So last 3, all 3 guys on base. Will Myers at 3rd, walk. Spangenberg with the E4 and Blash with the E5.
And now it's Eric Ibar, bases loaded, 1 out. Rockies with what is now a precarious 2-run lead. To first, see if they can turn this. There's one on to first. Double play. Mark Reynolds, who's had a stellar evening on defense, starts a 3-6-1, the most difficult of double plays. 9-7 Colorado. Go to the bottom of the 7th inning. Everybody gets tacos tomorrow for the 2nd straight ball game. The Rockies have scored 7 runs. Don't forget to go to your participating Taco Bell location tomorrow between 4 and 6 to get your Rockies taco special with Masa Taco Bell. Actually, it's 3 straight because on Sunday the Rockies won 13-4 in New York. Ian Desmond will pinch hit here in the pitcher's spot, which is now the 7-hole. So Walters and Valaika to follow. 2nd inning of work for Jose Torres. Desi started yesterday. He had an infield hit, a walk with the bases loaded, and grounded out, and also then walked again. He was on base 3 times yesterday. Come out of the ball game late a couple times. Still wary of that calf.
Well, with the left-hander Clayton Richard going tomorrow for the Padres, he'll be right back in there.
They still have a big chip in play if they need it later on in the ball game with Arenado on the bench. 2 strikes on Desi. Rockies 27-18 at home, which is the 3rd best home record in the National League. You'll never guess who has the 2 top records at home in the National League.
Dodgers?
Dodgers won, yeah. Nice job.
Arizona.
Arizona. That's what Andy Green was talking about the other day. He said, you know, we're really pleased at the progress we're making with the young team, and played better than 500 baseball the last 7 weeks. He said a lot of people, though, don't take into consideration that said we have to play the Rockies, we have to play the Dodgers, we have to play Arizona 19 times each.
Right. Still don't think this division's getting the credit it deserves.
Called strike 3 on Desmond. 2nd strikeout for Torres. That'll bring up Walters. 9-7 Colorado with 1 out in the 7th inning. We go to the camera well, and here's Spilly once again.
Well, we just wanted to thank Ian Desmond for participating in our Toyota Twitter takeover tonight. We get a new guest every Tuesday, so next week we have a new guest, but keep sending in those questions for our guys, and obviously Ian Desmond, great guest tonight.
Yeah, Desi did a nice job, and it's a cool little wrinkle having him partake in our Twitter takeover this evening.
It would have been even cooler, though, if Spilly would have gone into the dugout during the game to get those answers. It's not allowed, though.
Walters
Anybody can
won.
do it. Spilly can do it.
And Spilly can pull it off. I wouldn't advise him to do what I'm about to tell you, this story from my youth. This was not me. One of my buddies, we're at a Mets game. We're teenagers. The Mets were awful. 0-2. Did he hold up on that one? Yep. So all of a sudden we're in the front row, right?
Uh-huh.
And we dare, as teenagers will do.
No.
One of my buddies, during the changeover between innings, there was a water fountain. Remember, Shea Stadium had a water fountain.
Right there
in the dugout.
Yeah.
That's strike 3. And we dared him to go through the little gate there.
Yeah.
Guard wasn't paying attention. Run in the dugout, get a drink of water, and come back. And I swear to you, he did it. He ran, and John Stearns, bad dude from here in Denver, TJ, CU fame. He was about to get a drink, and he just let my buddy Mike get the drink.
No way.
Probably so startled. Mike comes running back. Nothing happened to him. ran in, got a drink in the Mets dugout.
I don't think that would fly today.
I know that wouldn't fly today. There's only 42 people at the game.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead, kid. You get a drink.
Hey, you're thirsty. Looks like you had a tough day out there cheering. Valleca came in, had a base hit and a run scored in the 6th. Unbelievable. The Dodgers in the 9th inning are leading 1-0 over the White Sox.
Well, you know who's on the hill, right?
The guy who never gives up any runs, Kershaw or Wood?
Kershaw. He's going for his 10th straight win, too.
Yeah. He's going for his 15th overall. He's 14-2. I don't think it's hyperbole to say that when he is done with his career, he will be looked upon as one of the all-time greats.
I concur. Just the way he dominates.
Valleca drives this ball to left, but right there is Pirela, and it's a 1-2-3 inning for Torres. So we move to the 8th. Jake McGee will take over. The Rockies +2 on the scoreboard. Runs in the 1st inning, and then he retired 8 in a row. Overall, he threw 83 pitches, 5 innings, 4 runs. Walked 3, one of those intentionally, and a couple of strikeouts tonight. So Jake McGee in the 8th inning. League hitting just .211 against Jake and almost a 5-to-1 strikeout to walk ratio. He's going to get Luis Torrens, and then it'll probably be Alan Cordoba.
That's who's on the on-deck circle.
Manuel Margot after that. So it's 8-9-1.
Jake looking for a bounce back after last night, but that's more of an aberration for him. Just a 1/3 of an inning, gave up 3 earned runs on a couple hits. The good news is he got him out of there, just threw 14 pitches.
I don't know if Andy Green would risk now with 2 catchers as opposed to 3 as he had coming into this series, but they had to place Austin Hedges on the concussion list today. Throwing Hector Sanchez up there, who homered yesterday against Jake McGee. And I was thinking that if Torrens were to reach, would you play that card? But it's risky.
He wouldn't tonight, but I think last night, if you had that extra catcher, if you had the guy that could go, but you're not going to play that card when you don't have a backup. And Sanchez with the home run off of Jake to right center field last night.
Ball and a strike on Torrens inside, 2-1.
He's got a bat.
So it's obviously going through his mind.
He's got the right ear flap to hit right-handed. Ready to go.
It's basically if Torrens reaches. Tardy on that swing, 2-2.
Unless he just pinch hit him and left him in the game. You do that. I mean, either way, you still not have a backup catcher.
Well, that's late. Timeout granted. And a ground ball to short. Backhand and an overhand throw by Story. That's subtly a very nice play, isn't it, Huey?
Not as easy as Trevor made it look. On a backhand, when you know you have to set up for it, you're thinking, I want to take my right foot to the ball where it's going to end up, and that's what Trevor does. He gets it, and then he can just shuffle, come up over the top, and make a strong throw, hit Mark Reynolds in the chest. It really buries that head, got behind the glove, get that all-important first out.
So here's Alan Cordoba pinch hitting. Sanchez takes off the batting gloves and the helmet.
Cordoba came into the game last night as a pinch hitter, stayed in the game, then got 2 hits, including an RBI. Just watch Cordoba at the plate, Drew. Does he remind you a little bit just the way he holds the bat and how low it is of Eric Davis? Remember Eric, how low he had it?
I'm sure Alan would say if I could have, you know,
but look at where the hands
50% of the career that Eric Davis had. Yeah, you're right. He's got a lot of hand action. Eric Davis had tremendous bat speed.
Look at Eric Davis and Gary Sheffield.
Gary Sheffield.
Same thing. Sheffield with the twist of the wrist.
Barry had the same thing, but it was more horizontal with the movement of the hands. Sheffield, the top of the bat was pointed at the pitcher.
It's not something you would teach. Low those hands are, and then he immediately brings him up into a hitting position.
Here's the 2-2, and that's fouled off. Gary Sheffield cruised through Denver on his way to the big leagues with 500+ home runs.
Playing for the Zephyrs.
Denver Zephyrs. Duffy Dyer added to Zephyrs. I think when Sheffield was here, yeah. Backup catcher on the '69 Mets. And another chance for Story. That's something else Eric Davis at Crenshaw High School in LA could do. He could run. Teammate in high school of one Darryl Strawberry. I would imagine that was a pretty formidable middle of the lineup back in high school.
Well, don't pitch to him and don't pitch to him.
Really?
Let the other guys beat you.
2 outs, nobody on for the Padres. And Jake McGee will take a look in at Manuel Margot. 0 for 4 tonight.
Very aggressive swinger is Manuel. Likes to fire early in the count.
Rockies will have the top of the order in the bottom of the 8th. Out of play. Rockies with 10 hits this evening, 9 for the Padres. Usually a pretty tight relationship between manager and bench coach. So let's spend a lot of time together, and that is the case with Mike Redmond and Buddy Black. There's that.
Wow. Where is that pitch? Well,
It should be, it's 0-3 on the Subaru strike zone.
Instead of the 2 balls and 1 strike. Man.
Yelling out of the dugout, he's got a postage stamp. 2-2. Philly jersey. And I don't recognize the other jersey. Todd helping out with the Balls, his alma mater, in their baseball program. Good for him.
New coach.
Yeah. I don't think they'll get rid of Helton, though.
I think they'd be wise to keep him.
Spilligus, you okay?
I'm great.
Oh, baby.
Best seat in the house. Are you kidding me?
Great seat down there, right by the dugout.
Beautiful sunset. I get to watch Cargo.
Any of your old friends talking to you?
Nope.
2-2. Look down low. 3-2.
I can yell at the umpires from here if you wanted me to.
I don't want you to tonight, but if it was really ugly, we may ask you to get ejected. Take one for the team, so to speak.
That would be awesome. Been ejected one time in my entire baseball career.
You and Huey, just one time.
Just one time.
Never drew a line though. Not in a pro ball game. Little League.
That's out of play. Huey, who tossed you again?
Dale Ford. Chicago, we were playing the Chicago balls and strikes. I told them that was not a blankety blank strike.
And that was it.
That was it.
Gonzo.
Yeah, but I got my money's worth. That time it was only $100. I got about $200 worth.
Right. Another 3-2 on Margot. Got it. Nice bounce back outing for Jake McGee. He works a 1-2-3-8. We'll go to the bottom half of inning number 8 with the Rockies up 9-7. Charlie Blackmon's up next. Colorado Rockies baseball on AT&T Sportsnet is brought to you by Southwest Airlines. Say yes to low fares with nothing to hide. That's transparency. And by Wells Fargo. Wells Fargo customers get your 2-for-1 Rockies club level tickets by visiting wellsfargo.com/Rockies. In our gorgeous city, we've arrived at the bottom of the 8th inning with the Rockies ahead 9-7, looking for their 3rd consecutive W. Charlie Blackmon's going to lead it off. A walk, a strikeout, a triple, and a fly ball to center field. He has scored 2 runs tonight. He has a 13-game hitting streak intact. DJ LeMahieu, Gerardo Parra to follow. And the new pitcher is Jose Valdez. This is the 4th time he's with the Padres this year. He's been back and forth between El Paso, Texas, and San Diego.
Just twice in the last 24 hours, where he was sent out after Kirby Yates came off the paternity list, and then when they put Austin Hedges on the concussion list, they recalled him today.
Charlie pulls the first pitch. Hot shot. Myers can't find it. Out at first base. On a really close play.
Might as well just pause for a moment. They're going to take a look at this and give Brian Jones an opportunity.
This is a rocket.
It was, and he did everything he could, did Will Myers, just to knock it down. And then it went behind him, and then he just backhand flipped. Almost a no-look flip to the pitcher covering.
They're going to take a look at this. What do you got here?
Why not? I mean, you might as well. This would be a better look.
Wow, that is close. As soon as it touches leather.
Ball and glove.
I don't see him overturning.
I don't either, because it was called out on the field. I think that's your best look on that angle. He's out.
So Myers flips to Valdez, 1 out. LeMahieu tonight 0 for 3 and a sac fly. Strike 1 on LeMahieu. Greg Holland in the 9th inning will have Osway, Myers, and Perella. 2, 3, and 4.
He faced 2 of those guys last night, and Will Myers struck him out, and then Perella hit the double.
The toughest out right now is Osway.
Astros won again. Beat the Mariners.
Cubs are leading in Atlanta again 4-1.
It's been a rain delay or something in that. If it's just in the 4th inning. The 5th inning, excuse me. Up 4-1.
This is well hit, but well positioned is Margot. And I'm sure Andy Green feels good about that, because in every ball game, that is a double. Except when you literally place your center fielder
in that gap.
Andy Green looks at those spray charts, studies them, and it pays off for him right there. Gerardo Parra has been on 4 times tonight. 2 walks, single, RBI, bloop double. He has scored 3 runs.
All kids through the gates on Wednesday, July 19th will receive the Hartford Signature Red Fire Helmet as part of the Junior Fire Marshal Fire Safety Day at Coors Field.
It's outside. Two and one on Gerardo. Final game of the series tomorrow afternoon. No television tomorrow. Thursday a day off. And then the Pirates are in over the weekend.
Ow.
Don't get hurt, Gerardo.
No. Already been hurt once this year.
Did you ever, against a good sinker baller, even without having hit your foot, wore one of the guards?
No. Because then I just felt like it.
You were aware of it.
I was aware of it, and I was kind of giving into him. Gerardo's just walking around, Keith Duggar standing out there. Nothing that the trainer could do. Just be there for moral support.
Doogie, like everybody, gets a kick out of park.
Well, and that one as high as it was.
Yeah, and obviously what I'm about to say is not the case with Gerardo. He's getting back in the box, but I think back 20 years ago when Todd Hollingsworth had the spider fracture and missed the whole year.
Yeah, I think that's the guy that everybody defaults to when that happens that high.
Two. He's going to come in there
right
again.
back in there.
You know it as a hitter, right, you?
That's why Gerardo opened up to make sure that he could get that barrel to it. I'm not fouling another one off my leg.
That's why you're susceptible, I guess, to a pitch away
Pitch
now.
away. Maybe a curveball down and in, slider down and in.
Or you leave it up, and Gerardo reaches yet again. And almost got by Blash. It's been remarkable how good Gerardo Parra has been. 3 for 3, 2 walks tonight. He has an RBI in all 8 ball games since returning from the DL. And the Rockies, not surprisingly, have played better baseball.
Well, when you have that bat in there and a professional hitter, as we like to say, Gerardo 40 RBIs on the season with that RBI he had back in the 6th inning. 5 for 5 on base tonight. But coming into the game, since he came off the DL, he's hitting 464, and it's going to go up even more.
Got 179 at bat, so he's not, because of the injuries, he hasn't qualified in the batting race. There's only one guy coming into the night who had a higher batting average. He's played quite a bit, and that's Daniel Murphy. And now on that wild pitch, the Rockies could steal a 2-out run here if Mark Reynolds can come through. This hasn't been the cleanest played baseball game we've witnessed.
Really on either side.
No. That's not indicative, folks, of Nolan getting ready to hit. I'm not dismissing it as a possibility, because if this inning were to continue 3 more hitters, he probably would. This is just Nolan. He's always working on the craft of hitting. So we'll go to the the top of the ninth. The Rockies leading 9-7. It is Greg Holland time at 20th and Blake.
Over San Diego, 9-7. Mark Stout and Corey Sullivan in center field, getting ready for the Toyota postgame show. You've reacquainted yourself with the grand old game, baseball.
That I have.
So what's your favorite thing from tonight?
I think it's cargo. I guess that says it all, Mark.
I've had that jersey in my bag since game 1. It's game 96. Big game for Cargo.
Pretty good game. It was nice to see.
Are you ready for this? Are you ready?
I'm ready. He needed those at bats. That was good. It was quality at bat right there.
Let's go.
Yeah.
All right. There's Cargo, guys.
Yeah, it was great to see, and I'm glad you could finally break that shirt out tonight, Mark. Rockies need 3 more outs. Greg Holland looking for save number 30. Carlos Asuaje will be the first up. Double and a home run tonight.
Greg last night for his inning worth of work, couple strikeouts, 15 pitches, 11 for strikes. He went. Well, even if he didn't go, it was called a strike right down the middle.
Asuaje is listed at 5'9", 158. They may be fudging on the weight.
You know, he reminds me of Fernando Vina.
Fernando, though, is put together a little better.
Yes, thicker, but just the way they stood at the plate.
Outside, 1-1. Carlos, a 25-year-old from Venezuela. Barquisimeto, I believe is how it's pronounced in Venezuela. 1-1. 1-2. That was a 3-run home run swing. The problem is there's nobody on base.
Sending back to the 7th inning when he hit a home run.
That was his first career home run. No swing, says Jerry Meals. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Myers on deck. And Greg Holland, former teammates in Kansas City. 2-2. Got him. Pulled the string on him. 1 out.
Carlos just got locked up on this.
It's a slider, maybe a split. I mean, that's what's so hard to tell because it had action like a left-handed slider, that it was going away from the left-handed batter instead of down and in.
Couldn't tell what that was. It had
head shaker. That's the pitch it was. It was a head shaker.
It was strike 3. Take a seat. So here's Myers. 2 walks, a home run tonight, also pop out. And that disappeared underneath the bat of Will Myers. Sensatelli in line for his 10th victory with 2 more outs. We made note of it last night. These young pitchers, they don't go and watch in the clubhouse. They stick around on the bench. I love it. Oh, that was close. Where's that? Should have. Tell you what, man, Ron Kolpa, good umpire, but tonight it's been a tight zone.
Many pitches on the edges of the Subaru strike zone that have not been called strikes.
1-1. Good fastball, and it's 1-2. The last minute, we'll say that may be
better
fair.
run. He's taking that slow walk back to pick up his bat. He knows that he's in that off-speed count now.
Holland about as deliberate as Rafael Betancourt, who had such a fine career in a Rockies uniform. 1-2 guy. 2 outs on 2 punch outs for Greg Holland.
You know your stuff's great when you're making major league hitters like Will Myers, all-star, fish for a pitch that moves that much out of the zone.
And a guy who probably has a better feel for your stuff, having played with you
and
been
around you enough.
Yeah. Jose Pirela, RBI double and a 3-run first tonight for San Diego. 1 for 4. And he missed that by a foot. As our good friend George Frazier would say, couldn't hit that with a boat paddle.
You'd have to start to swing a little sooner with the heavy boat paddle, but he still couldn't have reached it.
Hard to get that boat paddle through the zone.
There's a lot of drag on it.
Yeah. Nine-7 Colorado. Here's the 0-1 on Pirela. And it is 0-2.
Don't mess around. What you call the first 2 pitches, call it the 3rd time.
Throw that thing that nobody has a name for.
The one that gets,
and nobody
can hit it.
Right. Remember Daisuke Matsuzaki came over with the gyro ball. Here's the 0-2. He's got him. They'll have to finish it at first base. Another Rockies victory, their 3rd in a row. They had to come from behind, an early deficit of 3 runs. And at the end of the night, it's Colorado shaking hands once again. A 1-2-3 victory for the 30th save for Greg Holland. All strikeouts in the ninth. 9-7 Colorado. And for Greg, his 175th career save. All right, Jimmy John's delivery of the game. We focus in on Carlos Gonzalez. Big night for him. It was 4-4 when he came up, and on a 2-2 delivery, he bounced one off the right center field wall to drive into and give the Rockies a 6-4 lead they wouldn't relinquish. And then he threw out another base hit with 2 outs to bring home Parra. And at that point, it gave the Rockies a 3-run lead. Strong night for Cargo, strong night for the Rockies. 9-7 over the Padres with their 3rd consecutive victory. They're now 55-41. The Padres dropped to 40-53. And with that, we go to center field. Mark Stout can break out the Cargo jersey along with Sully. Guys, all yours.
Yes, Drew. Yes, I will break it up. Hey, if Cargo gets hot, Corey.
Watch out. But guess what? You had your mic drop moment. Here's mine. What we're rocking, they're now 32-3 when hitting 2 homers.
We're back with the Toyota postgame show.